Okay, so continuing with the recap a little bit. So, so some people are offering prayers to demigods, or offering controlling their senses, controlling their mind, different levels of sacrifice. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, others by performing severe austerities, practicing yoga, so Ashtanga yoga, eightfold mysticism, and others by studying the Vedas, so Jnana Yoga, right? Vedas to advance transcendental knowledge. So in all of these cases, what are you sacrificing? You're sacrificing your effort, you're sacrificing your time, you're sacrificing your desire. You want mind was to go this way, you're going this way, right? So there's a sacrifice involved in all of these with a higher purpose to achieve the transcendental truth, the transcendental position, right? The Shuddha Sattva position, the Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, and then we are trying to achieve the Shuddha Sattva position. So to elevate ourselves from where we are to where we want to be, there is a price to pay, and that is a price of sacrifice. And in text 30, it is said, all these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. From the foregoing explanation of different types of sacrifices, namely sacrifice of one's possession, study of the Vedas or philosophical doctrines, performance of yajna, it is found that the common aim of all is to control the sense gratification is the root cause of all material existence. Therefore, unless one is situated on a platform apart from sense gratification, there is no chance for being elevated to the eternal platform of full knowledge, full bliss, and full life, Satchit Ananda. Right? So, how do you get to that platform? What anchors us down is sense gratification or Indriya Tripti. The only way in the material world that we know to be happy is sense gratification. The five senses are constantly pulling us in different directions. That I want this, I want to hear this, I want to touch this, I want to taste this, I want to feel this, I want to smell this. Constantly, they're pulling us in different directions. And due to the weakness of intelligence, the mind is strong, and mind says, I want this, I want that, I want that. And the mind is a sixth sense, Krishna says, Manaha Shashtani Indriyani. So mind is a sixth sense. So mind, all the senses culminate into the mind, and the mind tells the intelligence, I want that, make it happen. So we're constantly running after all these materialistic things because that's how we know how to be happy. Yet, after getting these things, the happiness we get is very short-lived and very temporary. And then we try for the next goal and the next goal and the next thing. And that's how we continue in our life until we die. We are always looking for the next thing and the next thing. Fortunately for us, we have come to the realization that there is something more than sense gratification. There's something that gives us tremendous happiness that cannot be even compared to sense gratification. In fact, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is defined that the happiness one derives in this material world, the highest form of happiness, is from sexual pleasure, right? That's what everybody is after. But compared to spiritual happiness, that sexual happiness, whatever that one gets, because what happens in sexual activity is all the five senses are involved. Sense gratification at its fullest form. What is happening there is compared to a drop of water in a desert. That happiness is compared to a drop of water in a desert, compared to the ocean of happiness that is waiting for us in the spiritual world. Now, how do we know that is true? It's kind of like saying, oh, this is the best you got. Come on, there's a whole ocean of it out there. You just have one drop, right? But how do you know that's true? And that's what this is talking about, that you can taste the effect of your sacrifice, right? Chapter 4, text 30, that is what is being said, that all these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, nectar, right? Nectar means something sweet. So having tasted the nectar of the results of their sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. Sometimes what happens is the nectar is so sweet, people get stuck there. For example, certain sacrifices lead to amazing yogic powers. There are still people today who take bath in all the different holy rivers. They take a dip in Ganga, they come out of Yamuna. They take a dip in Yamuna, they come out of Krishna. They take a dip in Krishna, they come out of Godavari. They take in Godavari, they come out of Narmada. Like that, they will take a bath in all the rivers through yogic siddhis. Now that happens, they're like, oh, people start adoring them. They walk on water. They can do all kinds of yogic stuff. And as a result, they get proud, they get following, and then they get stuck because they think that is the aim of life. And the aim of life is much more than that. But unfortunately, with all the fame, game, glory, and all of that, they get stuck. So there is a problem with that also. If you don't have proper guidance or proper philosophical understanding, you can get stuck at the enjoying or the nectar of the performance of your sacrifice. Like Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu, 10,000 years, he was doing tapasya. And then finally, when with his power of his tapas, he was able to create so much heat that the demigods were getting irritated. Like, my God, who is this Hiranyakashipu? He wants to be immortal. We know what will happen if he becomes immortal. He'll cause so much damage. But Lord Brahma, please do something about it. He's heating up the entire universe. Lord Brahma goes there, and Hiranyakashipu is like, make me immortal. Brahma's like, I am dying myself. What will I make you immortal? It's like, okay, fine. And he tries to trick Lord Brahma. Okay, make sure I don't die during day or night. Make sure I don't die by animals or humans. Make sure I don't die on the sky or on the ground, etc., etc. Lot of conditions, right? And Lord Brahma, tathastu, tathastu, tathastu. And he's like, ha, I tricked Lord Brahma. Now no one can kill me. I'm immortal. Narsimhadev comes and kills him. But the point of it is tapasya, and he uses that tapasya to see Lord Brahma and to get material sense gratification. We don't do tapasya for that reason. We do tapasya to see Krishna face to face and serve him eternally and go back to Golok Vrindavan, to be in spiritual world, right? That's why I chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, because in chapter 10, Krishna says of all the tapasyas, japa is the best. And we do japa. We chant the holy name of Krishna, just like Dhruva Maharaj did, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. In Satya Yuga, that was the mantra. In Kali Yuga, according to Kali Shantara Upanishad, according to Puran, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, according to all the various scriptures, the most powerful mantra meant for Kali Yuga is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is 16 syllabled, and repeating that is equivalent to all the 10,000 years of sacrifices that all these great personalities did in the previous yugas. We chant 16 rounds, 2 hours, done. It's the equivalent of that. So it's very, very powerful. It's very, very simple, and it's easy to do. Now, still it's difficult because we are in Kali Yuga. We don't have time. How do I get 2 hours? Oh my God. Okay, start with 1 round, 7.5 minutes, right? Slowly grow that to 2 rounds, 4 rounds, right? Like that. So generally I tell devotees that every Ekadashi, grow by 2 rounds, right? And that way, at least for me, the way it worked out beautifully was on Gita Ekadashi. We reached, me and my business partner at the time, we reached 16 rounds. And since then, by Krishna's mercy, it's there. Now, the point is incremental growth towards that. But that's the sacrifice we're making. Chanting of the holy name. We are sacrificing our time, our breath, our energy, our choice. We're choosing to chant versus choosing to do something else, right? And that's the price we pay to cleanse our consciousness, cheto darpana marjanam, right? Cleaning the mirror of the heart, the consciousness, and thus absorb the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, apply it in our lives, and move towards Krishna slowly but surely. Okay. So, point to keep in mind, the thing that anchors us to the material world, root of all material problems, is material sense gratification or indriya tripti. So when we detach ourselves from material sense gratification, we attach ourselves to Krishna consciousness, right? Pleasure of Krishna, Krishna satisfaction versus satisfaction of our senses. Now that doesn't mean we deprive ourselves. So instead of eating any kind of food, we eat Krishna prasad. Instead of hearing or any kind of music, we hear Krishna bhajan or Krishna katha or things that elevate our consciousness. Instead of watching all kinds of things, we watch certain. So as much as possible, we try to mold our lives that the senses have to be gratified, but we gratify them, we feed them something that is in line with our spiritual goal. That's how we progress. So at the time of death, why? Because at the time of death, Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavan tyajati ante kalevaram tam tam eva iti kauntya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. At the time of leaving the kalevar, leaving the body, whatever you're thinking, that is the kind of body you will receive. That is the kind of destination you will receive. I'm sorry, right? That's where you're going. So if I'm thinking of Krishna, you will go to Krishna. That's what Krishna says. Antikale, at the end of the life, when you think of him, you go to Antikale Narayana Smriti. You go back to Krishna. If you think of your ex-girlfriend, you might end up being a cockroach in your ex-girlfriend's bathroom or something. But I'm just joking here. Point is, whatever you think, accordingly, your next destination is defined. So your karma and your desire defines your next destination at the time of death. And so now it doesn't just happen randomly that at the time of death, boom, you're thinking of Krishna. Whole life you were messing around. Doesn't happen like that. Whatever you've lived your life through, like that, the whole movie of your life plays in front of you. I'm sure you've heard about this. When you're about to die, the whole life kind of comes in front of you like a movie, and you see through all of that. And if you've lived a God conscious life, so you have God conscious thoughts, and guess what? You go to your ultimate destination. And if you have lived your life in other ways, or you have other desires, Krishna is very merciful. He will help you with another birth so you can fulfill the desires that you still have in your heart. So material desires, another birth. Spiritual desires, go back to Krishna. It's a choice. Any questions so far on text 30? Deepak is saying, I'm not able to imagine what kind of happiness is in the spiritual world. Yeah, don't try to imagine it, Deepak. I'm sure you can experience it. Krishna will, as you go through this, you will experience it yourself. You'll be addicted to the process. You don't have to wait till you die or go to spiritual world. You can experience it right here. Okay, if there are no questions, I'll move on to text 31. Somebody wants to read it?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'll read it. Okay. Nayam loko stai ayajñasya kutho nyaha kuru sathama. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next?
Purport, whatever form of material, thank you, Mataji. Whatever form of material existence one is in, one is invariably ignorant of his real situation. In other words, existence in the material world is due to the multiple reactions to our sinful lives. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life, and sinful life is the cause of one's dragging on in material existence. Very important statement here. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life. So when we're ignorant, we don't know what we're doing, we end up committing sin. But even if we do that without knowing, there is a price to pay for that sin. There's a penalty. Just like if you drive on the wrong side of the road, even if you didn't know the rules, still the police will come and penalize you, right? So if you break the laws, whether you know it or not, you will be penalized. So it starts with ignorance of our relationship with Krishna. As a result, we see whatever everybody else is doing, and we try to follow them and do the same thing. Oh, they're eating chicken. Oh, they're doing this and they're doing that. And, okay, this is how it is. So I also should do it. And as a result, we create our future. Let's just put it that way, right? Action, reaction, action, reaction. Karma happens, future happens, and thus we go through life. So the human form of life is the only loophole by which one may get out of this entanglement. Why? Because in every other form of life, upper life forms and lower life forms, you are expending your karma, right? So in the human form, you have the choice to live your karma or get out of that karma. That's the loophole. You guys are all part of this loophole, right? That when you come to bhakti, when you come to Krishna consciousness, it can burn all your karma, good and bad both. All gets burnt out and you are freed from all the karma, and you can actually cut all this birth death nonsense and go back to Goloka and never be born again. Punar janma navidyate, Krishna says. Janma karma medivyam, ye janati tatvataha, tyakta devam. Uh, sorry, I'm forgetting the Sanskrit. But the point is, those who understand Krishna's divine appearance and pastimes, then never take birth again in this material world. Right? That's it. His promise he's giving us, that you'll never take birth again. So you're out of the whole birth, death, old age, disease, birth, death, old age, disease cycle. You go back to Godhead. No more death again. Eternal life. So uh, human form is the only loophole, because when you do a lot of good work, a lot of piety, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of good materialistic work, sattvic work, you become a demigod. You become a tapasvi, Swarga Loka, Jana Loka, Mahar Loka, Tapa Loka, like that. All these 7 higher planetary systems, all the way to Brahma Loka you can go to. Or if you do terrible things, then you can be born as a human, terrible condition, or you can go to lower planetary systems, where you go to Atala, Patala, Sutala, Taratala, Rasatala, like that, and take lower forms. But in both cases, you're spending your karma. In animal form also, you're spending your karma, because you don't have a choice. You're just spending your karma based on what you've accrued in the human form of life. In the human form of life, you have this unique opportunity in this little 60 years or 70 years that we live. We have this unique opportunity to ask the right questions, find the right answers, cut this whole karmic cycle, and go back home, back to Godhead. That's what the gift that we have been given in this human form of life. And most people don't know about it, unfortunately. Once you realize it, how important, how short span, how short lived this is, we get serious about it. We start chanting, we start living this lifestyle, and we morph our goals, we morph our vision, we morph our desires in a spiritual way, so that at the time of death, there is no more birth. We go back to where we belong, back home, back to God. And for that, there is a sacrifice needed. So Krishna is saying, "Oh, best of the Kuru dynasty," referring to Arjun, "without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What to speak of next life?" Right? You cannot live happily in this life only if you don't do sacrifices. If you just sit home and watch TV, who will feed you? You have to work hard to earn money. And with that money, you're able to afford things and afford your lifestyle, etc. So there's sacrifice at every stage if you look at it. So what to speak of spirituality? Yes, there's a sacrifice required there also. The path of religion, or the different kinds of sacrifice recommended above, automatically solve our economic problems. By performance of yajna, we can have enough food, enough milk, etc., even if there is so-called increase of population. When the body is fully supplied, naturally the next stage is to satisfy the senses. The Vedas prescribe, therefore, sacred marriage for regulated sense gratification. So in marriage format, sense gratification regulated is allowed, right? Thereby, one is gradually elevated to the platform to release from marriage bondage. So once you turn 50, there's vanaprastha, right? Uh, of course, not everybody does that in today's world, but 50, 60, whenever you're retired, you're like, okay, you're done with all your sex life, you're done with all the enjoyment, dancing around and this and that. Now it's time to, again, go serious, deep into preparing for death. That means really getting into preparing your consciousness so that at the time of death, you can remember Krishna. So when the body is, okay. Thereby, one gradually elevated to the platform to release from material bondage, and the highest perfection of liberation, liberated life, is to associate with Lord, Supreme Lord. Perfection is achieved by performance of yajna, as described above. Now, if a person is not inclined to perform yajna according to the Vedas, how can he expect to be happy? Expect a happy life even in this body. What to speak of another body or another planet? There are different grades of material comforts in different heavenly planets. And in all cases, there is immense happiness for persons engaged in different kinds of yajna. But the highest kind of happiness that a man can achieve is to be promoted to spiritual planets by practice of Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna consciousness, therefore, the solution to all problems of material existence. So, sacrifice is required to even to go to heaven, to Swarga Loka, or to Tapa Loka, or to Brahma Loka. they all require sacrifice. It's not like it's easy. Okay, I got on a rocket and just went. Even to get on a rocket, you need to burn fuel and whatnot. But the point I'm trying to get at is there's sacrifice at every level. But what happens if you go to any of the upper planetary systems in a material world? Yes, you enjoy. You enjoy for 311 trillion years, Brahma's time, your time zone, it might be different. But the point is, if there's an ending to it, it's temporary. Then again, you come back to Bhumandala, that is Earth planet. And again, you take birth. Again, ABC 1, 2, 3, right? Differential equations and all of that. And then again, you go through life. You might have been Lord Brahma, but look at you now looking for a job and having to fend for yourself and all of that. But when you cut through the universal layers and when you go through to spiritual world, then you don't have to. It's not temporary, it's permanent. Punarjamana vidyate. No more birth again. It's permanent. You're gone. You're with Krishna, playing with Krishna, eating with Krishna. You're enjoying with Krishna eternally. And anandam buddhivardhanam. The happiness, the ocean of happiness is increasing perpetually, infinitely, always. Right? Okay. Any questions so far?
Prabhu, I have two questions. The first one is probably a bit trivial. Any specific reason why text 31 has only one line? Any significance?
No,
and,
not that I know of.
Okay. And the second question is there any data of how many of them have gone to Vrindavan Loka?
Data? What do you mean by data? So there's like a visa receipt. There are many instances of devotees at the time of death that have mentioned certain things that substantiate this thought. So, for example, if you read back to Godhead magazine, there are many instances where people are like, at the time of death, they see Krishna face to face, or they see Srila Prabhupada face to face, or they see Tulsi Maharani face to face, right? One devotee, during Prabhupada's time, his name is Sudama Maharaj. Uh, he did a great job. A lot of countries he spread Krishna consciousness to. He used to be in the rock and roll lifestyle, drugs and all that. He left all of that and became a monk, sannyasi, and did all the good work. And after a little while, somebody offered him a restaurant, and somehow things got different. He took the restaurant for himself, left Krishna consciousness. For years, he was back to rock and roll, and eventually he got AIDS, and he was about to leave his body, and he again remembered Krishna consciousness. So he reached out to some of his god brothers in the Hare Krishna movement. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj at the time, he made arrangements for Sudama Maharaj, saying, you know what, you've done such great service for Krishna, regardless of what happened afterwards, it doesn't matter. I will provide you with all the facilities. So there was a Mataji taking care of him at his end. He was passing stool and urine. He was in a really bad shape, HIV positive. And at the time of death, he was given Govardhan Shila, Tulsi, all of that. And as his last breath was about to leave, he said, Srila Prabhupada, you have come. And he left his body, right? There's another Mataji. She had served Tulsi Maharani for a very long time, all her life. But then right before her death, she became paralyzed. So she couldn't water Tulsi Devi. So next to her bed, they kept a Tulsi Maharani, and she used to water her. And again, at the time of death, same thing. There was a big smile on her face, and she said Tulsi Maharani, and she left her body. So there are many examples where Krishna personally comes, or he sends his representatives to take these wonderful devotees back home, back to Godhead, because at the time of death, whatever happens, right, they find their next destination. If you're seeing Tulsi Maharani or Srila Prabhupada or Krishna, guess where they are? They're going back to Godhead. There are wonderful, many stories. I can go on hours talking about it, but these are some examples for you. But I don't have a data sheet that these people have gone back to Godhead, these people have not. That we will find out when we go back to Godhead. Who are these people?
Okay. So Sudama Maharaj, as you said, because he served so unconditionally, like with so much devotion, even though he wavered from his path, but he still probably went back to Godhead.
Krishna is very kind. Yes. Krishna
I
never
have a
forgets.
question.
He's
Thank you, bro.
extremely great gratitude. In his gratitude is a very big quality about Krishna. Is if anybody does even little thing, Krishna doesn't forget. Like for example, Draupadi, Krishna one time got a little cut. Draupadi immediately tore her sari and tied a knot in Krishna's finger. And when Draupadi needed sari, Krishna manifested, miles and miles of sari for her, right? So
Yeah.
Krishna doesn't forget even a small thing one does for him. Sorry, Yogesh, go ahead. You were saying something.
Thank you, bro. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, yeah. Uh, okay, yeah. The question that I had is, so you said that during the time when we are about to leave the body, the based on what thoughts you get, you manifest or you attain that destination. So if you have spiritual desires, you move towards it, is what I understand. But spiritual desire is a desire in itself. Then how does it uh, work that way? I mean, I'm not sure if I had interpreted it in the right way.
So I think you come from a conception that you should not have any desires. That is not possible. In fact, it is stated that a human being without a desire will die in 21 days. Without hope or desire, you won't survive more than 21 days. So we all have desires. The important thing is to transform the desire from material to spiritual. Just like there is rice and there is rice. One is offered to Krishna, it's called prasadam. The other one is not offered to Krishna. It has sin within it, right? Both are rice. So similarly, this transformation of the rice by offering it to Krishna. Similarly, this transformation of desire by having a Krishna conscious desire. The gopis wanted Krishna. Was that a desire? Yes. But it was directed towards Krishna. So that's the kind of desire we should cultivate. It's directed towards Krishna. It's not desireless. That's not possible.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, hello. I want to ask, how did Lord Chaitanya appear?
Is it Prayash?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your question? How did Lord Chaitanya appear? Your voice is very, very choppy. I'm sorry. Prayash, if you don't mind, please type the question that you're asking. Okay, anybody else has any questions? Okay, I'm moving on to text 32. Somebody wants to read?
I will read it, Prabhuji.
Okay, Mataji, it's all you.
Yeah. Evam bahu vida yajna vithata brahmano mukhe karma jan vidhitan sarvan evam jnatva vimokshase. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated.
Purport. Different types of sacrifice, as discussed above, are mentioned in the Vedas to suit the different types of workers. Because men are so deeply absorbed in the bodily concept, these sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with mind, or with the intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord herewith from his own words, own mouth. So Krishna is saying all these different types of sacrifices are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. So we have to know what options we have, right? Just like we decide what courses we want to study in college, we decide what profession we want to take up, who we want to marry, what kind of car we want to drive. Similarly, tapasya also has a menu. Depending on who we are and psychophysically what our capabilities are, accordingly we are given. So that we don't kill ourselves, but we can align those sacrifices with our psychophysical nature. For example, I'm just going to make a little controversial gender-biased statement right now. So certain things are recommended for men and not for women. Sannyas, for example. Women don't take sannyas. Because what does sannyas mean? Sannyas means you are alone, you're going to beg for food, you're going to sleep on the floor, You're not going to stay in one place for more than 3 days, right? And you are preaching to people, and you're detached from everything material. You're detached from your family and all that. This is applicable to men, and especially men who are really of that order, who can become sannyasis. I cannot be that, not my cup of tea, but there are people who are very renounced by nature, and they can go for that. Now, even for women, that is not recommended. Why? Because women by nature tend to be more emotional, more loving towards family. Sometimes they need that protection because otherwise they might be exploited, etc. Again, I am not making these statements. These are from the scriptures. Please don't get upset with me. This is a generalistic statement. There are exceptions that exist, right? I'm not saying women always need protection, but this is what the scriptures say, that because it's not suitable for a woman's body and mind to be a sannyasi. Having said that, I personally know many women in the Hare Krishna movement that are as good as a sannyasi, even in the female body. There are exceptions. One of my favorite people, Lakshmi Moni Mataji, she came, some of you saw her speak at Philosophy Friday. So detached. I mean, she's a brilliant preacher. She's just amazing, right? She trains sannyasis. She's that elevated a person, but that's an exception, generally speaking. So that's why these options of tapasyas are given. Not everything is meant for everyone. So according to who you are psychophysically, accordingly you can sacrifice certain things. Now for Kali Yuga, Kalo Shudra Sambhava. All beings in Kali Yuga, all human beings are born Shudra. Kalo Shudra Sambhava. So for us, it's very rare to find a real Brahmana, right? We can be trained up and brought to the Brahmana level. So it is given, that's why we are given the easiest, simplest thing. And that is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that you just chant the name. Even if you look at the Sri Vaishnavas, they chant the Vishnu Sahasranam, and there are other sampradayas who chant other names of God. And even if you look at Islam, they chant the name of God. Buddhism, they chant the name of God. Christianity also, Hail Mary, Mother of God, they chant the name of Mother Mary. So chanting, japa, is an important aspect of all religious processes, and including within our Vedic system also. Chanting and japa is an important part, especially chanting the name of God. Right? So that has been given to us in Kali Yuga because that's the most powerful and the easiest process to attain God consciousness. That's the tapasya we need to worry about. So please don't worry about doing Ashtanga yoga and wearing deer skin and sitting on kusha grass and doing all these austerities. Because the first thing that you have to do in yama niyama, in the Ashtanga process, is control, especially for men, controlling their semen, right? And that's where 99% people would fail. So, and it's not meant for Kali Yuga also. So Kali Yuga, it's made easy. You know what? Get married, have kids, do everything that a person does, but in a regulated manner. That's the key word, regulated, right? So you're a grihastha versus a grihamedhi. A grihamedhi, unregulated sense gratification. Grihastha, regulated sense gratification. And through that regulation process, you can control the mind, regulate your senses, regulate your thoughts, and bring in Krishna consciousness. And slowly, slowly, as you go along with your life, and once your kids are in college or they're independent on their own, then you can slowly take on vanaprastha. Staying at home, you don't have to go to the forest, but vanaprastha mindset that, okay, I'm done, no more attachment. Now everything is for God consciousness. Right? That's how the 100 years of our life is divided. 25 years brahmachari, 25 years grahastha, 25 years vanaprastha, and the last part sannyas. Most people don't live 100 years, but you get the point. So accordingly, tapasyas are different for different people. 33. Any questions so far? Oh, Prayash's question is, sorry, go ahead.
My question was, how did Lord Chaitanya disappear?
Yeah. So Lord Chaitanya, who's none other than Lord Krishna himself, his disappearance was, there is a temple in Jagannath Puri called Tota Gopinath. It's a Gopinath temple. So Gopinath was actually manifested by Lord Chaitanya himself. So Gadadhar Pandit used to worship Gopinath. So if you see Gopinath, he's in a very, you can Google his picture, you can see he's not in the Tribhanga Murari position. He's legs are a little bent because when Gadadhar Pandit became old, he couldn't garland Gopinath. He was kind of stooped out. So Gopinath came down to accept Gadadhar Pandit's garland. So the same deity where Lord Chaitanya actually entered the deity, and that's how he ended his pastimes. So Lord Chaitanya merged with the deity of Gopinath. And they don't show it, but Gopinath has a little crack in his thigh. That's where they say that Lord Chaitanya must have entered through. So that's how he ended his Leela. No body of Lord Chaitanya was found. And same with Vishnu Priya Mataji, Lord Chaitanya's wife back in Mayapur. She also entered another deity form and ended her pastime. No body was found. Again, these are Krishna, like the Vishnu Tattva. Vishnu Tattva, you don't find dead bodies lying around. They are the spiritual form, so they enter into spiritual samadhi. Does that answer your question, Rash?
Yeah, absolutely, Professor.
If you go to Jagannath Puri, definitely go to Tota Gopinath. It's a beautiful place and a beautiful, beautiful deity. Okay. Should I go more, or the next 10 minutes should we do Q&A? Okay, we will just continue with the verses. Shreyan Dravya Mayad Yagnaj Jnana Yagya Parantapa Sarvam Karma Khilam Partha Jnane Parishamapyate. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. Purport. The purpose of all sacrifices is to arrive at the status of complete knowledge. Then to gain release from material miseries and to ultimately engage in loving transcendental service to the Supreme Lord, Krishna consciousness. Nonetheless, there is a mystery about all these different activities of sacrifice, and one should know this mystery. Sacrifices sometimes taken differently. Sacrifices sometimes take different forms according to the particular faith of the performer. When one's faith reaches a stage of transcendental knowledge, the performer of the sacrifices should be considered more advanced than those who simply sacrifice material possessions without such knowledge. For without attainment of knowledge, sacrifice remains on the material platform and bestow no spiritual benefit. So just giving off your shirts to Red Cross or throwing away your old TV is not the highest form of sacrifice. It's actually gaining knowledge about spiritual subject matter, right? And replacing your previous conceptions with Vedic conception is a better form of sacrifice because it's a directional sacrifice. You're going in a certain direction with that attitude of sacrifice versus sacrifice for the sake of sacrifice. I was just meeting somebody the other day. He's a vegan. He's like, I'm a minimalist. I don't buy a lot of things. I recycle. That's wonderful. But there's something more than that. What are you doing it for? What's the purpose? Is there a higher cause? And that higher cause makes it all worthwhile, that I'm sacrificing for the personality of Godhead versus I'm just sacrificing for the heck of it. Real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness, the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. Without the elevation of knowledge, sacrifices are simply material activities. When, however, they are elevated to the level of transcendental knowledge, all such activities enter into the spiritual platform. Depending on differences in consciousness, sacrificial activities are sometimes called karma kanda, fruitive activities, and sometimes jnana kanda, knowledge in the pursuit of truth. It is better when the end is knowledge. So karma kanda, jnana kanda. Almost most of Vedas is karma kanda. Do 100 Ashwamedh yagyas, you will become Indra. Fast on Monday, you will please Lord Shiva and get a good husband like him. Fast for Surya Dev, you'll get good health. Do this sacrifice, you'll get wealth. All of these are karma kanda sacrifices, right? Whereas karmic, it is on the material platform. You do this, you get that. But it's all temporary. You don't get anything permanent. But if you do sacrifice for Krishna, whether you need good health, a good wife, good wealth, whatever you need, if it is good for you, Krishna will give it to you. If it is not good for you, Krishna will not give it to you, because that will kill you. I was just talking to, I don't know if he's here today. I was just talking to somebody before this, um, that he was saying, I want to do business so that everybody gets rich. Oh, Janak Prabhu. So everybody gets rich. I was like, not everybody can handle money, and it might not be the best thing for everyone, right? So Krishna provides it to those who can handle it and won't be destroyed by it. For example, those who win the lottery either end up killing themselves, or go into jail, or getting addicted to drugs, or ending up becoming completely homeless, losing all their money. Why? Because they cannot handle $200 million or $300 million that they win through the super lotto or whatever. In India, it's, I think, several crores people get. They cannot handle it. Kaun banega crorepati? I was just reading this article. All of those crororepatis are in big trouble because they got the money, and then people just come from nowhere and they take your money and they dupe you, and you get swayed away. You buy this and buy that because you don't know how to grow your money. Rich gets richer, poor gets poorer. Why? Rich knows how to invest and grow the money. The poor does not know. So they think spending money is what money is all about. And when you're out, you're like, oh, now how do I maintain the things that I spent money on? Right? So it's that mentality. So money is not the answer for everyone. So if Krishna wants to give you something that is good for you, he'll give it to you. And if it is not good for you, he will not give it to you, because he's your father. He's not just another a person stamping at the bank that, oh, okay, here's your karmic bank account, here you get this or you don't. He decides it based on what is good for you, if you ask Krishna. All right, so there is karma kanda, jnana kanda. All of these things are in the material platform, but on the spiritual platform we make sacrifices to choose Krishna, things that are positive, that bring us closer to Krishna. We make those sacrifices. And we don't choose things that move us away from Krishna. So prasadam, for example, we don't eat certain things like meat, alcohol, onion garlic, drugs, tobacco, and things like that. They're not helpful towards us moving towards Krishna. So we offer food to Krishna that is sattvic, and we accept the prasadam. Similarly, everything else in our life, we try to align as much as possible with Krishna consciousness. Okay, I'm done. Next week, we will start from text 34. Any last questions from anyone? Okay, Deepak is saying, is going to Golok like a competitive exam? Can the whole world go back to Godhead? Is there enough place to accommodate such a large... I'm sorry. Okay, Deepak. Material world with trillions and trillions of universes. This is just one universe, which is huge, right? With trillions and trillions of universes, is only 1/4 of creation. 3/4 of creation is the spiritual world. We are just a little dark cloud in creation. Everything else, 2% of souls are in these trillions and trillions of universes. 98% are with Krishna, just like 2% of the population is in jail. The rest are happily living their lives with full freedom, following all the regulative laws. So similarly, only 2% are here. So we can be very happily accommodated in the spiritual world. We are nothing. We're a very, very small amount of people. There are trillions of universes. This is just one universe. And in this one universe, there are 14 planetary systems, right? And there are many like that. So Mahavishnu, from whose pores these universes are coming out, you can imagine how many pores he has all over his body. And from them, he's breathing out, universe is coming out, creation is happening. He's breathing it, annihilation happening, all the universes ending, right? Partial annihilation. Again, he's breathing out, universe is happening. So that's that. So don't worry. Spiritual world is much bigger, and Golok Vrindavan is the largest planet in the spiritual world. There's plenty of space for you and me. Okay.
Prabhuji, I had a last question.
Yes.
are there ups and downs in Krishna consciousness, and is this a test? Because sometimes I feel high and like I go to ecstasy and something like that, and sometimes I don't feel like anything. And is this a kind of test, or I'm falling in Maya?
Yeah, you're following my. So the ups and downs is not in Krishna consciousness. The ups and downs is in our consciousness. Sometimes we are with Krishna, sometimes we are with Maya. Mostly we are with Maya, sometimes we are with Krishna, right? And hopefully over time, over practice, we will be more with Krishna and less with Maya, and eventually always with Krishna, no more with Maya. So the point is the ups and downs that's happening is because we are used to, for trillions of lifetimes, we are used to being with Maya. This one lifetime, suddenly somebody has told us, oh, there is an alternative path. Have you thought of it? And we are getting used to it. So it takes a little time for us to trust Krishna. Will he really remember me? Does he really know I exist? And we are slowly getting used to a new system of living life. So yes, the fluctuation is because of that. But eventually the fluctuation will uh, become more steady, and we will have steady bhakti, steady faith in Krishna consciousness.
So what's the solution of that? Like, if I'm falling in Maya,
Continue doing what you're doing. When you fall, get up and keep going. There is no prayaschitta in the bhakti process. Prayaschitta is there in the karma kanda process. When somebody dies, they say do prayaschitta because they have done so many pap karma and this that. But in bhakti, there is no prayaschitta. There's only one thing: get up, keep going. You fell, you screwed up, fine. Get up, keep going. Keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. Krishna will help you. If you're sincere and you keep doing what you're doing, Krishna will personally help you, inspire you, and keep you going. So know that. So don't feel guilt. Don't feel, oh, I'm so fallen and all that. Don't waste time on that. We are all fallen. We are in Kali Yuga because we couldn't make it in Satya. We couldn't make it in Dwapar. We couldn't make it in Treta. We are here in Kali Yuga. So but in Kali Yuga, we're in the golden time period, 10,000 golden years, right? That's where we are born. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. So this is our opportunity. Fall, get up, keep going. Fall less as much as possible. But what to do? We are born in Kali Yuga. Okay, Akshat, last question. Prabhuji, no social media in the form of regulative principles. Don't get used by social media. Use social media to your advantage. I'll be a hypocrite if I said no social media. I'm always on social media, right? I'm posting, I'm writing, I'm responding to all of you on social media, constantly there. But the thing is, I'm using social media for Krishna consciousness. I'm using social media for helping people, for business support, right? So I'm utilizing, everything is a tool. Internet is not bad, social media is not bad. It's how we use it is good or bad, right? Somebody can use the internet to rob a bank. Somebody can use the internet to speak on Bhagavad Gita. It's a choice. It's a tool. So it's not right or wrong. It's how we use it. That's what matters. We get used by it or we use it. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, bro. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna, Guruji.